everybody, welcome back to Angel's Crafts. I'm Audrey and today we are going to be pouring a deep pour. Now this is the very first time I've ever tried this. I am going to make a clock. Well, as you can see, it's got a little clock bit in it. It's a heart-shaped mould and I think this one came from one of my subscribers. It was sent to me and I think it was about January time, sometime, but I got 3 of them, 2 love hearts and a hexagon, and I am extremely thankful. These are a bunch of flowers. I think she got them from a flower place. They are called Mercy Bouquet. Yep, Mercy Bouquet, as you can see there in the top. They are a lovely pink and white bunch of flowers. I just stuck my fingers under there to see what kind of material they were. I wasn't sure if they were a fabric or a papery type flower. But they're a waxy oh, hold on a minute. Come on then, you pain. Up you come. I know. What am I doing my voice over again? What a shame. Oh, your mummy's so inconsiderate, isn't she? Sitting at the computer and making voices. Right, back to it. Right, there we go. Gloves are on. There's my face mask. I got this from Amazon. I can link it in the description below. These are just a little rubbishy plastic gloves because I couldn't find my box gloves. And these ones were on my table, so I just used these ones. Always wear your PPE when you are working with resin. When working with UV resin, with deep pour, you don't really need, not with deep pour, with eco resin, you don't really need to wear gloves. But always wear your mask because in powder form, the eco powder does tend to float around. Hold on a minute, woman. I'm so sorry. Right, is that better? Can you see the TV now? I am using Tea Expert deep pour resin. It's a 2-to-1. This is part B, I think. I never saw the lid. I think this one's part B because it's 2-to-1, 2 part A, 1 part B, and the part B bottle I am positive is smaller. Ooh, quick magic jump cut. Okay. I must have missed out pouring the second part. Either that, it was edited out. This went through my Resner's mixer machine, which the dual head Resner's mixer. It's sitting there next to me. I use that to mix up my resins, but it is always a good idea to scrape the sides and scrape the bottom so that you know that it's all fully mixed together. I don't know what that little tiny clearish black thing was that I just pulled out. It might have been something off the mixing stick. So that's them now both mixed together clearly. And what I'm going to do is I'll lay down the first layer. No, I won't. I'm getting ahead of myself again. What I'm going to do just now is I am going to steep my flowers in the resin to help eliminate any bubbles. Will you stop wagging your ears about? You keep hitting the microphone. Oh, I know. So I am popping these into the resin to help them be completely coated and to help eliminate any trapped bubbles in where the petals are. You'll see every now and again I push them by the bottom so that they are top up, and you sometimes see some of the little bubbles popping out from between the leaves. I have a pink rose, a white rose, and I think, if I know my flowers right, which I don't really, but I'm sure that's a pink carnation. Yep, it's a pink carnation. But pushing it down and then just trying to get as much resin into them as possible in all the gaps, and then pushing them from the bottom to get the bubbles out. And then I'll just lay them into the mould. Now this is a little bit of a boring bit, and it's going to be pretty much the same thing, so I am going to let Ray take over with some music while I finish doing the flowers, and I will be back. As you can see here, I am adding in some little stems with tiny little white flowers on them. Still poking around at the flowers, but I thought I would come back and just explain a little bit more of what I was doing. I put the carnations in now. They had a little bit longer to soak than the roses did. This is the very first time I've done this, so I wasn't fully prepared. Well, I thought I was, but I wasn't. I never thought about clipping the ends off before I started sticking things in the resin, so that just shows how prepared I was. I'm trying to be kind of symmetrical about it, but it's not looking too bad. Pink, white, light pink, darker pink, and then 2 more white roses in the top corners. But as you can see, they don't lie too bad. This is actually still on a little bit of a fast forward at the moment as well, because it did take me quite some time. But that's me just jiggling them around to try and make sure there's plenty of resin in between all the petals. I guess I'm kind of stuck for words at the minute. I'm not, still not very good at this talking part of the videos. Do the video, yeah, give me lots of different types of music and I'll stick that in instead, because I've never been great for talking. But here we go, we're now pouring the first layer of resin I made up. I was going to say 300 mils of part A and 300 mils of part B, but I did not. I think I made up 600 mils of part A and 1200 mils of part B. No, 2 to 1, so it would have been part A that was 1200 and part B that was 600. My brain just isn't braining. Yes, I know. You no need to be sarcastic about it. And that actually only filled the heart mould up almost halfway. So I will then again have to make up another lot. But I am going to let this lot sit for, I think I left it for about 2 hours, thinking that would be good enough for it to be slightly more set, because I didn't want a defining line between my set resin and my unset resin. But I didn't think about the fact that it was a deep pour resin and it takes way longer to get tacky. I don't know if you just heard that weird crackling noise. It came through the headphones, but I don't know if the mic picked it up. Hopefully it didn't. But if it did and you heard it, I apologise. So I've poked these down and poked them down and they keep floating back to the surface. But as I said, this is the first time I've done this, and I didn't have any tips or tricks that I could remember at that point on how to do this. But I have since learned through Steve McDonald's Arts and Crafts, his members page on Facebook. I put up my issue and I got lots of responses back from some very nice people. And I also asked at the Goblin Cave on Discord, which belongs to the lovely Lula at Nerd Goblin Art. And I got some wonderful ideas from those people there, so I will try this again. Now what you see here is I have already made up the second part of this, but I made up just a little bit less. And it is now set. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting a background on it using the Sigwong Pink and some regular resin, because it's not very deep, the part that's left, so that I can then have a bit of a background on it. I'm also going to use some very fine silvery glitter even, and I'm using the craft resin epoxy 1:1 to make this back bit up. And I know it was only a few millimetres deep, but I thought, well, there's all the spaces and gaps in between, so I'm going to have to make up a little extra because I don't know how much it's going to take. And yeah, you guessed it, I made up too much. Aren't I so special? I'm such a clever sausage. But I make up... I haven't got my glasses on, so I can't see that. I want to make up 300 mils. So 150 and 150. And I will add the pink and the sparkle into that. And then I'll put it on the back for the back coating. That's the resin all mixed up. And if you can see that little circle, it's catching the drips from my dual head mixer. It's catching the resin drips from that. And I just stick that under there after every time I use it. But just before I used my dual head mixer, I sprinkled some silver stars into that, just to give it a bit of interest. But as I says, always scrape your sides when you're using mixers if you're not using your hands. I can't use my hands because 4 minutes of stirring leaves my hands absolutely aching because I have arthritis. So when you're using machines like this one or the Let's Resin one, always use a spatula to scrape your sides and always scrape your bottom. I'm now adding in a couple of scoops of the pink from Sig 1, and I just want it to be a nice subtle pink, but even those two hefty little scoops are slightly transparent after mixing it, so I will add in another scoop. Yes, I know you're just getting comfortable. You're a good girl. For those of you that don't know and hear all those little squeaky noises, that's Bella. She's my little fur baby. She's a chihuahua, and she is a massive pain when it comes to me doing my voiceovers. She loves to annoy me and scratch at my legs until I pick it up while I'm doing a voiceover. She doesn't bother me any other time, not a problem. But no, this little madam has to be involved when I'm doing my voiceover. She sits curled up in my arms while I'm doing this, but she likes to make little squeaky noises now and again. But back to this. I'm now putting the fine silver glitter into the pink. I know it'll sink just slightly in places, but it's fine, so it won't all sink to the bottom, so you will still get a very good view of that. As you can see, the stick, you can now still slightly see through the resin and see the colour of the stick, but I decided I wanted a little bit more glitter, because as a lot of the other crafters say, glitter is life. I'm not quite that excited about glitter. I like it. Sometimes it looks really good in the right places, but I would not sit there and fill an entire pot full of resin. But hey, that's just me. Each to their own. And I'm just kind of sad. But there we go. You can just about see the sparkle on the stick now. And what I'll do is I'll cover up the back of this, and I will top up a couple of little side things because I do end up with a little bit left over. And yet again, I will leave you to the awesome music by my awesome editor, Ray. see, I made up way too much resin, so I'm going to be topping up here my little nine-tailed fox that I've been using as a drip backup. Not a drip backup. An extra mould on the side for when I've got too much resin. I can't remember what you call it. I'm just filling him up, giving him little squidgy widgies so that I can get the bubbles out from underneath his chin and little necklace area. There is a little piece right underneath the necklace that I always seem to end up getting a bubble in, but we'll see how that works out. I'm going to also fill up a little snail mould that I have. He's also been one of my backups whenever I've had black resin to put in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chuck a little tiny bit of the Decoron black into this pink so that I can just finish this snail off and get him all finished off, I suppose. If you've managed to make it this far listening to my dribble, then thank you so much. If you are a subscriber, you are awesome. You're amazing. Thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed and you have watched a couple of these, and you do like what you see, then please hit the subscribe button, smash that little bell, and you'll be notified when my videos are up next. Linked in the description will be as many of the links as I can possibly remember to put in. Well, that's usually the editor's job, but I'll get him to put in whatever links is necessary for this one. But here we go. We are back, and this is demold. We'll start with the two side items first, and then we'll get on to the main make. Well, here we go. We're just my brain's not working. We're just demolding the nine-tailed fox, and there we go, off screen as per usual. But I know I'm not the only one that does that, so I don't feel too utterly bad about it. I'd love to know how I managed to get some little tiny black specks down the bottom there, but there we are, there he is. Very weird combination of colours. But he's actually not that bad looking. He's got no bubbles in his nose, but yep. Right under that little necklace there's that tiny bubble again. And maybe next time when I do him, even if it's just as a drip mould, I will have to find a way to try and get that little tiny bubble out. Always remember to make sure and turn your moulds back in the right way. That way you can get them to last a bit longer. Taking care of your moulds is very important. You want to try and keep them as long as possible because moulds aren't cheap, and it saves you having to buy more and more and more replacements if you can get them to last that little bit longer. I don't 100% know the best method as yet. As you know, I'm still just new. I've heard people say, use baby oil, rub it in, use silicone oil, but I'm not 100% sure yet which is the best, so I'll once I figure that out, I might be able to put a video up about taking care of your moulds and taking care of your equipment and stuff. Here we're now moved on to the little snail. And it wasn't that difficult to demould. I thought it might have been a lot more difficult than it was. The most difficult part was just popping the silicone. No, popping the mould round to get it. I couldn't quite catch it, but I got it, and I was trying to be very gentle and slow here so that I didn't pop off his eyes. Although his eyes had been fully set for quite a while, so I wasn't expecting too much damage on him. But he's so cute. And if you look at that little weird face, he seems to remind me of something called Creature Comforts. I think it was a stop animation type thing that used to be around a while ago. About all these different animals, and I don't know if it was a snail or a slug, but he's got that really weird cheesy grin like the snail or slug that was in that. For some reason that's just what he reminds me of. But he's got such a big grin. There you go, a little close up on his face. And now we'll move on to the heart mould. And as you can see, this being my very first time, my flowers floated to the top, and I just was a little disheartened because I don't have anything that can help me fix that. But once I showed the photo to my daughter, she was up to the house within an hour and stealing it. But the flowers have floated, but since then I have been on with a bunch of really lovely crafters at the Goblin's Cave on Discord. And I asked some advice, and I got some lovely tips from the wonderful people over there. And I'll try that next time. I think I might try the big hexagonal clock next time with some red roses. But here we go, we're going to demould this. And the resin is really clear. It looks, from what I can see so far, really good. And there wasn't that much of a struggle to get this off. I don't know why it took me so long. I think I was just nervous because I really didn't want this one to fail, because it was my first time and I really like how these look when other people do them. So I think I was just taking it a little slow. But put them all back in the right way. Come on, Bells. Go over the couch, baby. And here we are. Ready? We're going to turn it over in a minute. Maybe once. Yep. I'm being awful slow. But there you are. I can't tell you how ecstatic I was when I turned this over on the day. There's barely any bubbles at all in it. There is even just a tiny couple of little bubbles on some of the leaves of the touchy greenery that I put in. But there was no bubbles on the surface. It was crystal clear all the way down. And this is me attempting to put the clock in, but I can't quite figure out how to do it. Excuse me. It was crystal clear. The mould seems to have a little tiny flaw in it where that little white rose is. In a bit you'll see me rubbing my finger over the white rose. I think it might have been a flaw in the mould, because it certainly isn't the rose, and there doesn't appear to be anything there. It's just a little tiny wobble. And I definitely think it was in the mould. But there we go, that's us at the end of yet another video. And as you know, All resiners love to just run their finger round about things. But that's the clock just sitting in there because I couldn't figure out how to put the little bracket bits in. But as I was saying, that's us at the end of another video. Thank you so much for watching this. And if you have any ideas of what other kind of things you'd like to see me do, please drop a comment in the comments below. Hit the like button, please, if you wish. And I will see you on the next video. Bye for now.